Hi fans, and welcome back to my channel. Let's step into the shadowed world of the Leakin Elite, where Omega Ellie Vance is a ghost, her life spent cleaning up after the Alphas who couldn't care less if she lives or dies. In a society where some are born to rule and others are born to simply survive, Ellie has accepted her invisible fate. But what happens when a single, desperate act of impossible courage awakens a forbidden guardian magic and thrusts a slum dweller into the lethal politics of King Harrison Thorne's royal court? This is more than a story of forbidden romance. It's a battle for a throne, for Princess Clara's life, and for a kingdom's soul. Hit that subscribe button and prepare for a journey where enemies will kill to keep an Omega from rising above her station, and the truth about bloodlines is written in fire. Chapter 1. The harsh fluorescent lights of the medical center felt cold and unforgiving, mirroring the chill deep in Ellie Vance's bones. Her knees were raw from scraping against the tile floor, but she pushed the pain aside. It was nothing compared to the gnawing anxiety of tomorrow's rent. She was on her third cleaning rotation of the day, fueled only by stale air and the dust of broken promises. The hospital reeked of antiseptic and opulence. Alphas, in tailored suits that whispered of generations of inherited power, moved through the halls like demigods. Their polished leather shoes clicked a contemptuous rhythm against the marble, a sound that always made Ellie's inner wolf cringe in subservience. A shadow fell over her. "Mind your mop, Omega. You're blocking the path." Ellie flinched, recognizing the voice of Trevor Hayes, a young alpha who enjoyed his power trips. He couldn't have been older than 25, but his inherited wealth had curdled into pure malice. "My apologies, sir," Ellie murmured, sinking her voice low enough to be easily ignored. Trevor smirked, the expression ugly on his face. He then took a deliberate, heavy step, twisting his muddy heel right into the perfectly cleaned wet patch. The dirt print was a deliberate mark of ownership over her labor. "There. Looks like you'll have to start over." A flare of white-hot rage surged in Ellie's chest, the protective instinct of her hidden wolf demanding recognition. She swallowed it down hard. One word of defiance would cost her job, and losing this job meant freezing on the streets. "Yes, sir. Right away." Trevor's laughter, joined by his friends, echoed down the corridor, a sound Ellie knew better than her own heartbeat. It was the sound of humiliation, a reminder that she was utterly disposable. She redipped the mop, her reflection staring back from the grime. Tired eyes, hollow cheeks, and the dull brown hair of a forgotten person. At 23, she felt ancient. The wolf inside whimpered, but Ellie enforced silence. Survival demanded invisibility. Midnight arrived, and the security guards barely noticed her as she gathered her meager supplies. She was functionally furniture here. Outside, the late autumn wind bit through the thin fabric of her jacket. It promised a bitter winter she couldn't afford. Ahead, the lower district was a scarred landscape of desperation, where broken lights cast shifting shadows over the unwanted of the pack, the Omegas, the Elders, anyone who couldn't contribute to the Alpha economy. Ellie had a dozen blocks to walk. The main road offered safety, but cost precious bus fare. The alley shortcut was dangerous, but promised the $3 she needed for a loaf of bread tomorrow. Her empty stomach won the debate. She slipped into the narrow gap between buildings. The air was thick with the scent of decay and despair. Halfway through, the stillness was broken by an unsettling chorus of howls. They were feral, undisciplined, the unmistakable sound of rogues prowling close to the city limits. Ellie's wolf instantly shifted into high alert. She was running when the sound pierced the night, thin and high, like a thread of silver wire snapping under tension. It was the scream of a child. Chapter 2. "Somebody please." The pure, naked terror in the little girl's voice slammed the brakes on Ellie's flight instinct. Every self-preservation measure she had ever learned screamed for her to keep running, to pretend the sound was just the wind, to save herself. But that plea ripped through the protective shell of her learned apathy. She crept toward the sound, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. The alley opened into a cul-de-sac. There, Huddled against a damp brick wall was a child no older than 6. 3 hulking wolves, still in human form but radiating primal aggression, cornered her. Their torn leather and wild eyes marked them instantly as rogues, predators who lived outside the law. The girl was breathtaking, a beacon of fragile innocence. Her dress was expensive white silk, and her golden hair shone under the scant moonlight. She was clearly of noble blood, a little princess lost in a beggar's maze. "Look at this catch," the largest rogue sneered, his voice scraping like stone. "The king will pay a fortune for her. Or maybe we keep the prize," the third added with a disgusting grin that revealed deliberately filed teeth. "A pretty pup is worth more than gold to the right buyer." Ellie froze. She knew exactly what he meant. The whispered legends of children disappearing, never to return. The sensible thing, the surviving thing, was to melt back into the shadows and call the city watch from a distance. But the girl's wide, desperate eyes locked onto Ellie's, a tiny spark of pure hope ignited in the darkness. In that instant, Ellie saw the scared, abandoned girl she once was. Her guardian blood, long dormant, surged to life, overriding a lifetime of cautious submission. "Get away from her!" Ellie's voice cracked out, sounding louder and more authoritative than she thought possible. The rogues pivoted, their initial surprise quickly giving way to predatory amusement. "Well, well. A stray Omega trying to be a hero," the leader chuckled. "Looks like we have dessert now." Ellie's hands scrambled wildly for a weapon, closing around a heavy, broken metal pipe. It was crude, but it was all she had. "Run, kid," she shouted. "Now!" The girl was paralyzed. The first rogue lunged, moving with terrifying speed. Ellie swung the pipe in a desperate arc, catching him on the collarbone. He roared in pain, but the blow only enraged him. A crushing fist impacted her ribs, knocking the air from her lungs and sending her staggering backward. The pain was immense, but she forced herself to stay upright. The situation was impossible, one untrained Omega against 3 professional killers. With a guttural cry of sheer desperation, Ellie launched herself again. She wasn't fighting with skill. She was fighting with the pent-up fury of years of oppression. The pipe smashed across the second rogue's face, drawing a geyser of blood and dropping him instantly. "I'm going to rip you apart," the leader snarled, his humanity dissolving as he partially shifted, claws extending. It was over. He was too fast, too strong. Then, the ground began to tremble. A thunderous drumming of hooves echoed down the alley, a sound of organized power. Chapter 3. The elite guard burst onto the scene like a black tide. 6 enormous warhorses and riders clad in midnight armor charged in, moving with synchronized, deadly intent. The silver blade of the lead guard's sword was already drawn. "Stand down. You are surrounded." By order of King Harrison Thorne. The rogues' confidence evaporated. They were feral, but they weren't suicidal. They knew the uniform of the royal guard. But the leader, blinded by rage, completed a shift into a massive, snarling wolf. He lunged at Ellie's throat. She tried to roll clear but was too slow, his claws raked viciously down her arm. Captain Ryan Maxwell moved with the speed of lightning. His sword found the giant wolf's heart. The beast crumpled into a lifeless heap. The remaining 2 rogues vanished into the surrounding shadows, leaving nothing but fading fear in their wake. "Secure the perimeter," Ryan commanded, his voice sharp and professional. Ellie lay gasping on the broken asphalt, clutching her bleeding arm. The little girl stared, her terror slowly giving way to awe. "Princess Clara." Ryan dropped to one knee, his battlefield command softening into deep reverence. "Are you harmed, Your Highness?" "Princess Clara." The reality hit Ellie like a physical shock. She had just fought to the death for the Alpha King's daughter. "I'm all right, Captain Maxwell," Clara whispered, trembling. "The lady saved me. She fought the bad men." Every guard's eye snapped to Ellie, still sprawled in the filth. An Omega present at the scene of a royal kidnapping? Suspicion was instant and universal. "You." Ryan pointed his blade at her uninjured arm. "Explain your presence."
"Now."
I was walking home from work. Ellie stammered, the adrenaline draining and leaving her voice thin. I heard the scream. A convenient detour. A guard scoffed. And Omega just happens to intervene against 3 rogues? Highly suspicious. She protected me. Clara rushed to Ellie's side, placing a small hand on her uninjured arm. They were going to hurt me, and she fought. Name and pack affiliation, Omega, Ryan pressed. Ellie Vance. Unaffiliated, sir. Alone Omega. Their glances were heavy with judgment. Then, the ground vibrated again. A large, opulent carriage pulled by 8 white stallions, bearing the gold-etched royal crest, blocked the alley entrance. The door opened, and King Harrison Thorne stepped out. His presence was a physical force, dominating the narrow space. Tall, broad, and radiating controlled power, his dark eyes scanned the scene, the dead rogue, the blood, and finally, his daughter clinging to an unknown woman. Papa. Clara ran to him. He enveloped her in a fierce hug, his face briefly losing its royal composure to pure, desperate fatherhood. Are you harmed, little star? His voice was a barely contained growl of fury.
No, Papa.
The lady protected me. Harrison's gaze settled on Ellie, pinning her with an intensity that made her feel transparent. This lady. She fought 3 rogues, Your Majesty, Ryan reported. Held them off until we arrived. Did she? Harrison approached, moving with deceptive softness. What is your name, little warrior? Ellie Vance, Your Majesty. She tried to stand but faltered, the wound in her arm burning. Without warning, Harrison reached out and steadied her. The brief contact was surprisingly gentle, yet the cedar and rain scent of his dominant alpha essence made her wolf whine with an unexpected, deep recognition. You're injured, he stated, observing the blood on her sleeve. It's nothing, Your Majesty. Just a scratch. Nothing. His eyebrows arched. You risked your life for my daughter, and call your injuries nothing? Captain Maxwell, escort Miss Vance to the palace. I want her treated by the royal healers immediately. Your Majesty, I need to get home. I have work. The palace, Harrison repeated, his voice leaving no room for argument. I have questions about tonight's attack, and I prefer my witnesses alive and whole. It was a royal decree. As the carriage pulled away from the lower district, Ellie looked out the window, watching her old, invisible life recede. She had no idea she was leaving it behind forever. Chapter 4. The Royal Thorne Palace was not just large, it was overwhelming, a terrifying monument to power built for creatures larger than life. Towering spires of carved white stone seemed to pierce the morning sky, while massive walls enclosed gardens that sparkled with untouched dew. Ellie Vance had never seen anything that spoke so plainly of absolute, unassailable wealth. The carriage stopped before golden doors that dwarfed her. Royal guards, their midnight armor polished to mirror brightness, watched her with a chilling scrutiny reserved for a potential threat. Miss Vance, Captain Ryan Maxwell appeared at her elbow. His Majesty requests your presence in the blue salon. The healers will meet you there. Ellie followed Ryan through corridors where every surface gleamed like a jewel. Ancestral portraits of stern, dominant Alpha Kings stared down, their eyes seeming to calculate her worth and find her lacking. Servants in pristine uniforms moved silently, their gazes sliding past her like she was literally invisible, a necessary fixture, but nothing more. The blue salon lived up to its name, a room defined by shades of sapphire and azure, from the silk wallpaper to the massive crystal chandelier. Ellie felt the immediate, physical humiliation of her presence there, like a stain on a priceless oil painting. Sit, Ryan instructed, gesturing to a chair upholstered in fabric that probably cost more than her former life savings. A moment later, Princess Clara burst through a side door, now dressed in a simple, elegant pink gown. Ellie, she cried, running to her and throwing small arms around her neck. You came. You really came to the palace. Hello, sweet pea, Ellie whispered, hugging the girl tightly. You saved me, so we're friends now, Clara declared. And friends don't use titles. The genuine warmth in the child's voice was a salve, making Ellie's tight chest ache with unfamiliar emotion. When had anyone last treated her like she mattered? King Harrison entered. He had changed into formal regalia, a deep blue tunic embroidered with the royal crest, which only emphasized his powerful, commanding presence. "Clara, give Miss Vance a moment." "How is your arm?" he asked Ellie, his voice formal. The healers had finished their miraculous work, leaving the skin unmarked but tender beneath the silk bandage. "Much better, thank you. Your healers are incredible." She stiffened, remembering her obligations. "Your Majesty, I truly must return home. I have work tonight and my supervisor—"
"About that."
Harrison moved with controlled grace, settling into the chair opposite her. His gaze was steady, piercing, and utterly unnerving. "I've already conducted a review of your background, Miss Vance." Ellie felt the blood drain from her face. "Your Majesty, I haven't done anything illegal. I swear." "Haven't you?" His tone was dangerously level. Ellie Vance, aged 23. Born in the southern provinces, parents listed as unknown. No legal pack, no verifiable social ties, and records show you are functionally indigent. Each word was a clinical assessment of her worthlessness. You work 3 simultaneous, menial jobs to barely afford rent in the lowest-rated building in the district. "I survive," she said, jaw tight.
"Do you?
"Or are you simply existing until the debt or the cold finally claims you?" He leaned forward, studying her reaction. People with nothing left to lose often resort to desperate measures. It would be a plausible scenario for an Omega to conspire with rogues, staging a rescue to gain access to the wealthiest family in the realm. The accusation was a physical blow. "You think I planned to nearly die? That I wanted my arm sliced open by a feral wolf to gain a cleaning job here? I got lucky," she exclaimed, unable to contain the burst of indignant emotion. "You think I orchestrate near-death experiences for a better paycheck?" "Papa," Clara cried. "Ellie is brave. She is not bad. Just ask her why she helped me." Harrison softened his expression for his daughter, then returned his focus to Ellie. "A fair point, little star. Miss Vance, why did you risk your life for a child you'd never met?" Ellie swallowed, looking at the floor. "Because she was scared," she whispered. "And I know what it feels like to be completely alone and terrified. Nobody should have to be that scared alone." The judgment in Harrison's eyes softened, replaced by a look of profound, unsettling contemplation.
"I see.
Miss Vance, the attack on my daughter was not random. This was a targeted political act. Someone is actively trying to destabilize my family, and tonight was the 3rd such attempt this year. I don't understand what this has to do with me." "You intervened. You proved your loyalty is absolute and unbought." He stood, moving to stare out at the sprawling, opulent gardens. "I am offering you a new position. Not as a servant. As Princess Clara's official companion and protector." The words stunned her into silence. "Your Majesty, I am a low-born, unaffiliated Omega. The court will tear me apart, and I am certainly not qualified to." "You are qualified by your actions. You did what my trained, paid guards were minutes too late to achieve." He turned back, his gaze commanding. "The position includes private quarters, a substantial salary, and absolute protection. But your primary responsibility is Clara's safety." "The nobility will never tolerate it," Ellie insisted, shaking her head. "The nobility will tolerate what their king commands them to tolerate." His voice was pure, unyielding alpha authority. "The question is no longer about them, Miss Vance. The question is, do you accept?" Ellie looked at the luxury, the terrifying safety, and the beautiful, hopeful face of the little girl who needed her. "Yes," she whispered, the word carrying the weight of a life-altering vow. "Yes, I accept." As Ryan led her from the salon, Ellie caught her reflection in a large, gilt-edged mirror. The same exhausted face stared back, but the fear in her eyes was tinged with something new. Purpose. She was no longer running. Unseen, Victoria, Tori Sterling, Harrison's cousin, watched from a hidden vantage point. Her stunning, aristocratic face was contorted not just with anger, but with cold, political fury. Ellie Vance, the slum-dirted Omega, had just claimed a position Victoria had desperately schemed for years to control. This interloper will not stand. She will learn that some ceilings are built of solid, unyielding stone. Chapter 5. Ellie's first 3 days in the palace were a masterclass in aristocratic warfare. Her private quarters, larger than her entire previous apartment, felt like a gilded cage. But the luxury came with a price tag: the constant, low-level malice of the court. Victoria Sterling spearheaded the campaign. She found Ellie and Clara during their mid-morning play session in the princess's private wing. "Oh my," Victoria's voice dripped false honey. "I hadn't realized we were now allowing unregistered commoners to handle the royal heir. What are your credentials again, Miss Vance? Your resume must be truly dazzling." Ellie, helping Clara assemble a tower of wooden blocks, felt the familiar heat rise in her cheeks. "My qualification is simple, Lady Sterling. I saved the princess's life when she was under attack." "Ah, yes. The convenient, dramatic rescue." Victoria circled them, her elegant gown rustling. One has to admire the timing. Such a coincidence. Though, I must caution His Majesty, people who appear in a crisis often have a vested interest in creating one. "That's a treacherous accusation," Ellie said, her voice remaining steady only through sheer will. "It's an observation." Victoria smiled, a glacial flash of white teeth. "A shame you survived that scrape with the rogues. After all, there are fates far worse than death, such as being reminded daily that one will never escape their gutter origins." The threat was palpable, a clear power play challenging Ellie's right to exist in this space. "Lady Sterling," Clara said, her small voice surprisingly firm. "Papa says Ellie is brave. If you're going to be mean, you should leave." Victoria merely laughed, a brittle, high sound. "Such innocence. But remember, little princess, blood will always show, Miss Vance. Some stains simply don't wash out." The attacks were relentless. The head seamstress accidentally pierced Ellie's skin multiple times while measuring her for new clothes. Official memos and schedules directed her to the wrong wings of the palace, resulting in embarrassing public apologies to high-ranking officials. The worst came during Clara's history lesson with Walter Finch, the pompous, thin-lipped tutor. "Princess Clara," Walter announced, his eyes narrowed at Ellie. "Perhaps your attendance should wait outside. Academic pursuit is wasted on those with deficient breeding." Clara pouted. "Ellie knows lots. She reads me stories and knows all the capitals." "Indeed? How charmingly simple." Walter sneered. "Tell me, Miss Vance, if you're so knowledgeable, perhaps you can illuminate us. What is the standard deviation formula for demographic population variance?" Ellie paused. She didn't know that, but she had read the dusty history books. "I cannot provide the mathematical formula, sir. However, I can correct your previous statement. You stated earlier that the Northern campaigns concluded in 1845. The official ceasefire was signed in 1846, and the subsequent peace treaty was actually drafted in the Eastern Duchies, an often omitted fact that suggests the true cost of the war was felt more acutely by the marginalized communities than the official records admit." Walter Finch visibly deflated. The other tutors in the room exchanged surprised glances. "The lower district library," Ellie said quietly, staring him down, "may lack gilded halls, but it does contain books. Intelligence is not exclusive to lineage, Master Finch." From that moment, Walter's sneer was replaced by a wary respect. But the animosity from the nobility only intensified. That evening, as Ellie walked Clara to dinner, Victoria and 3 other noble women formed a rustling wall of silk in the corridor. Lady Margaret and Lady Victoria surveyed Ellie like a piece of questionable property. "The king truly has a fascination for the dramatic," Lady Margaret drawled. "To think, a common Omega given a place at court. She almost looks presentable." "Presentable, but still hungry," Lady Victoria added, wrinkling her nose. "After all, the lower district is notorious for its appetite. One can only assume her position is temporary and monetary." They were openly calling her a mercenary, a gold digger preying on the king's gratitude. Ellie's cheeks burned with a familiar sting of class humiliation. "The princess needs her dinner," Ellie stated, trying to steer Clara around them. King Harrison's presence arrived before his person. "Ladies." His voice was mild, but his shadow loomed large and dangerous. "I trust you are demonstrating the renowned hospitality of my court." The women curtsied deeply, their smiles brittle. "Because I would be genuinely disappointed," Harrison continued, his voice dropping to an icy softness, "if I discovered anyone was making my daughter's protector feel unwelcome. Is that understood?" They murmured terrified assurances. Harrison had made his choice public and absolute. "Papa, can Ellie join us for dinner?" Clara asked. "Of course, little star. I find the conversation far more enlightening when it includes brave company." The dismissal was clear. As they walked toward the dining hall, Harrison spoke quietly. "I apologize for their malice. They are threatened by what they cannot control." "Their right to be threatened," Ellie said, finally allowing herself to admit it. "I don't belong here. I am an outsider." Harrison stopped. "Do you want to belong here, Ellie?" She looked up at him. His eyes held no judgment, only challenge. "I want to protect Clara. I want to be useful. I want the people who think they are better than everyone else to stop hurting those beneath them." "Then you belong here," Harrison said, his hand lightly resting on her back. "Your purpose defines your place." As she entered the dining hall, Ellie glanced at a polished suit of armor. She still saw the exhausted servant, but now, the fear was mixed with resolve. She was ready to fight for her place. Chapter 6. The first attempt on Ellie's life and Clara's came with the dawn, disguised as a breakfast treat. Ellie and Clara were in the sitting room when Martha, the nervous kitchen maid, brought in a silver tray. Strawberry tarts. Cook sent a special, small batch just for Her Highness. Ellie's wolf stirred. The girl's fear scent was overpowering, and the single serving size felt wrong. "Martha," Ellie asked casually, "is this really all there is?" "Cook usually sends enough for the entire staff." I just bring what I'm told," Martha stammered, avoiding eye contact. Ellie picked up a tart. "They look exquisite. I think I'll test the quality control." "No," Martha shrieked, batting the tart from Ellie's hand. It smashed against the marble, and the air immediately filled with the sharp, sickening odor of almonds. "Nightshade poison." "Guards," Ellie screamed, pulling Clara behind a sofa. Within minutes, the palace was swarming. The healers confirmed the poison was lethal. King Harrison arrived, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. "Who ordered this, Martha?" The maid broke down, babbling about money, threats, and hooded men who operated outside the law. "They said it was the only way to save my family." "The Shadow Fong pack." "The Shadow Fong," Ryan confirmed grimly. "They're moving from the wilderness into the court." "How did you know, Miss Vance?" Harrison demanded, his eyes fixed on her. "My instincts," Ellie said, shivering. She was too afraid. The precise portion. It was meant to kill Clara and leave no trace for others to consume. "You fought 3 rogues, and now you have detected poison that fooled my entire security staff," Harrison said, moving closer. "That is not luck, Ellie. That is a trait I need. I need someone whose loyalty is uncompromised by palace politics." He was leaning in, close enough for his cedar and rain scent to cloud her senses. Their partnership was shifting from political necessity to something deeply personal. Victoria Sterling swept in, her composure cracking only slightly. "Is the princess safe?" "Thank the stars. Though, one must inquire, Your Majesty, how does a simple Omega possess the specific knowledge required to identify nightshade poison?" The implication was clear. She was suggesting Ellie was the conspirator. "Lady Sterling," Harrison's voice was lethal, "I suggest you return to your chambers. Ellie has just saved my daughter's life for the second time. She is now under my absolute personal protection." Later that evening, as Ellie sat trying to regain her equilibrium, a soft knock came. A cloaked figure stood in the shadows. "Miss Vance." The female voice was an educated whisper. "I have something you must know. The truth about why you were spared." "Who are you?" Come to the rose garden at midnight. Alone. The figure pressed a folded, heavy note into her hand and vanished. Ellie unfolded the parchment. It contained 4 stark words. Your bloodline isn't dead. Chapter 7. The rose garden at midnight was a labyrinth of silver moonlight and deep shadows. Ellie moved cautiously, the ancient note burning in her pocket. Her life story, parentless, packless, had just been rendered a lie. A figure emerged from behind the marble fountain, an elderly woman with silver braids and eyes the color of a gathering storm. You came. I am Audrey Hollis, the woman said, her voice refined and powerful. 23 years ago, I held you as a newborn while your mother bled to death in my arms. That's impossible. My parents were lost to a rogue raid. Your parents were murdered, Audrey corrected, her voice chilling. By order of the previous Alpha King, Harrison's father, King Marcus. Ellie stumbled back against the fountain. Why? Your mother was Vivian Hollis, the last daughter of the Guardian line. For centuries, we were partners to the Alphas, gifted with abilities, enhanced intuition, protective magic that complemented their strength. But King Marcus feared a shared power. He ordered the Purge of Shadows. Audrey presented an aged leather journal. Your mother wrote this as she was hunted. She cast a powerful spell to hide your unique gifts until you were old enough to protect yourself. That spell began to break the moment you chose to defy the rogues and save Clara. Why tell me now? Because the forces that killed your mother are rising again. They know what you are, a threat to their concept of absolute alpha power. Audrey gripped Ellie's shoulders. You have a choice. Remain the invisible Omega, or embrace your destiny and become what you were born to be, Harrison's guardian. He is the king. I'm nothing. You are the last of a proud lineage. The bond between your bloodlines is ancient, written in destiny. That is why you risked everything for his daughter. That is why he cannot stop seeing you. The sound of boots approached, Ryan and the Night Watch. Audrey pressed a silver crescent moon pendant into Ellie's palm. Your mother's. It will focus your abilities. When the reckoning comes, trust Harrison. His wolf knows the truth. Audrey vanished into the shadows. When Ryan reached the fountain, Ellie stood alone, the pendant warm against her skin, the weight of a secret destiny settling heavily upon her. Chapter 8. The court's annual Harvest Festival became the stage for the next attack. The grand ballroom shimmered beneath 1,000 candles, nobility masked and swirling through an elaborate waltz. Ellie, in a beautiful indigo gown provided by Harrison, felt the familiar tension of the hunter. You look breathtaking, Victoria Sterling purred, her golden mask complementing her sneer. That gown is nearly identical to the late Queen's coronation dress. So very nostalgic of His Majesty. Ellie swallowed the insult. The gown is a gift, Lady Sterling. Nothing more. The orchestra launched into a new piece. King Harrison, maskless, strode toward her. Miss Vance, will you honor me? The court gasped. Kings did not publicly claim an Omega. I don't know this dance, Your Majesty. Then I will teach you, he smiled, extending his hand. Trust me, Ellie. She placed her hand in his. Harrison was a perfect teacher, strong, patient, making her clumsy steps feel intentional as they swept through the crowd. They're staring, she murmured. They are staring because you are the most compelling person in the room, he countered, pulling her close. Ellie, there's something I must tell you. The moment was shattered by the smell of acrid smoke. Fire. It's a distraction, Ellie hissed. Her guardian senses immediately localized the danger. Where is Clara? The governess was hysterical. Clara was gone. Torres. She's been taken. Harrison roared. Mobilize all guards. Ryan commanded. No. Ellie stopped them. They'll be expecting a broad search. They're still in the palace. They want demands, not silence. I can sense her fear. It's a thread leading upward. Ellie pointed high. The North Tower. Harrison stared at her, seeing not the cleaning girl, but the power pulsing beneath her skin. How do you know? I just do, she cried, hiking up her gown and bolting for the door. The guardian power was now an undeniable reality. Chapter 9. Ellie climbed the winding North Tower stairs, the silver pendant blazing hot against her skin, accelerating her speed beyond any human possibility. With every step, Clara's terror became a sharp, clear beacon in her mind. She reached the final landing. Through the door, she heard the treasonous exchange. The king has 24 hours to abdicate, or the princess dies. Ellie burst into the stone chamber. I'm here. You can stop now. 3 assassins in black leather spun toward her. Time fractured. Ellie saw the trajectory of every blade, the rhythm of every heartbeat. The guardian awakening surged, raw and pure. She deflected the first blade, used the momentum to smash a heavy candlestick into the second attacker's temple, and disabled the third with a quick, brutal strike to the neck. They collapsed in stunned confusion. Impossible, the leader stammered. You're just an Omega. I'm a guardian, Ellie declared. The leader, eyes wide with horrifying recognition, reached for a crossbow. You are supposed to be extinct. He aimed at Clara. Stay back or she dies. Ellie didn't hesitate. She threw the candlestick, striking his hand as Harrison and Ryan burst through the door. The leader, defeated, reached for a poison vial. Ellie lunged, guardian power flowing from her touch, shattering the magical conditioning that bound his will. What did I do? The assassin cried, collapsing in horror. Arthur Sterling, King Marcus's oldest ally. He leads the conspiracy. They strike tomorrow night during the anniversary dinner. What did you do to his mind? Harrison asked, all replacing fury. Ellie knelt by Clara, cutting her bonds. I broke the spell. I gave him his choices back. She stood, facing Harrison. The time for secrets is over. I am the last guardian. Your protector, your destined partner, your queen if you'll have me. Always, Harrison declared, his voice fierce, absolute. In this life, and every other. Chapter 10. The War Council was convened instantly. Ellie sat beside Harrison, enduring the noble's shocked stares. We have 24 hours until Arthur Sterling's strike, Harrison stated. Ellie has a plan. Ellie laid out the map. I will use my guardian power to break the conditioning of their assassins. It's the only way to neutralize 50 killers without massive casualties. That is suicidal, Duke Aldrich protested. It is destiny, Ellie corrected. My ancestors died to give me this power. I will use it to protect my family. She pulled out the pendant. Guardian power is amplified by love. I can sense Clara's terror. I can break their minds because I care about you both. Lord Blackthorne, ever the skeptic, pointed out the obvious danger. If you are the only asset, you cannot be risked. I am the weapon, Ellie countered, and I will be deployed where I am most effective. I choose this. After the council dissolved, Harrison confronted her. You risked your life for that child, and now you are risking it for a kingdom that has given you nothing but grief. This kingdom has given me you and Clara, Ellie said, reaching up to touch his face. The moment I chose to protect your daughter, I became a target. I am not throwing my life away. I am finally choosing to live a life with meaning. Promise me, he whispered, holding her tight, that if the worst happens, you'll know how deeply I love you. I promise I will tell you the same thing tomorrow morning because we're going to win. He kissed her, a vow of partnership sealed against the weight of the coming war. Chapter 11. 2 hours before the anniversary celebration, the full royal council gathered, fueled by resentment and fear. They presented their demand to remove Ellie. Miss Vance's influence is erratic, her background destabilizing, Duke Aldrich summarized. The council formally requests her immediate removal from court. Her presence makes the royal line less safe. And if I refuse? Harrison asked, steel in his voice. Then the major noble houses will withdraw their support. You will face civil war, Majesty. Ellie stood, interrupting Harrison's furious reply. I agree with the council. Harrison stared at her in betrayal. Ellie, what are you doing? I am giving them exactly what they want. If they send me away, when Arthur Sterling strikes tonight, the council can congratulate themselves on maintaining proper social order as Princess Clara dies in the ensuing chaos. The threat was clear, brutal, and utterly effective. If Miss Vance's abilities are truly necessary, Duke Aldrich stammered. They are necessary, Harrison stated, taking Ellie's hand. Miss Vance stays, with full authority.
You force this choice upon me, my lords.
I choose my guardian. Chapter 12. The anniversary celebration was a whirlwind of mass terror. Ellie, already bleeding from the internal wound of the crossbow bolt, fought toward the source of the chaos. She had freed dozens of minds, turning enemy assassins into confused onlookers. But she saw the final, coordinated attack, Arthur Sterling leading the third wave. And she saw Clara, cornered by 3 remaining fanatics. Ellie ran, throwing herself at the assassin who aimed his blade at Clara. The steel ripped through Ellie's side, a searing, final agony. She collapsed, but the distractions saved the child. She was defeated. Arthur Sterling, seeing his victory, prepared to end the war. Chapter 13. Ellie lay bleeding, watching Arthur Sterling raise the poison vial. She summoned the last of her strength. The power of the Guardian bloodline, fueled by her absolute love for Harrison and Clara, became a blinding, pure light. She hurled herself across the floor, catching the vial barehanded. The poison burned through her palm, but Clara was safe. Harrison's sword struck Arthur Sterling. The battle was won. Ellie's last thought as she succumbed to the poison was, I kept my promise. Chapter 14. Ellie awoke in a timeless void. Her mother, Vivian Hollis, appeared. You chose love over glory, Vivian smiled. Now you must choose life. Ellie fought her way back to the physical world, waking to see Harrison, his face ravaged by grief and relief. I love you, Ellie, he choked out. I was ready to burn the world to get you back. Ellie, the surviving guardian, had earned her place not through title, but sacrifice. Chapter 15. After the conspirators were executed, the Royal Council, recognizing their defeat, offered Ellie the title of Queen Consort. I accept the Council's offer of marriage, Ellie announced, standing beside Harrison. But let it be known, this is a partnership. We are equals, co-rulers dedicated to transforming this kingdom. Chapter 16. Queen Ellie and King Harrison married in a ceremony that included all citizens. I promise to stand beside you as your equal partner, Harrison vowed. I promise to serve this kingdom not because I must, but because I choose to, Ellie replied. The kingdom's transformation began in earnest. Tax reform, education for commoners, and a new judicial system that applied to all citizens equally. Chapter 17. Lord William Ashford, representing the Northern Territories, challenged the new tax laws and commoner appointments. The Northern Houses demand a temporary governing council, Ashford sneered. Your policies are erratic, lacking the wisdom of long-standing tradition. My background taught me what happens when tradition excuses suffering, Ellie shot back. Your traditional rights to exploit others end with our reign. The confrontation solidified the new political reality. The crown would fight for justice. Chapter 18. The explosive attack on Clara's nursery was a direct retaliation. Ellie saved Clara, but the message was clear. The enemies would target her personally to destabilize the king. We don't run, Ellie told the War Council. We use transparency. We expose the Restoration Council's intent to murder children to the entire kingdom. We fight them with justice, not fear. Chapter 19. The coordinated arrests struck the conspirators. The subsequent public trials ended the era of noble immunity. The final warning came. Duke Maximilian Hollis, Elena's cousin, was the new, educated, and well-funded threat from the East. Ellie realized she faced an enemy who understood the Guardian line intimately. Chapter 20. The massive attack during the Spring Festival brought the final reckoning. Ellie discovered that Duke Maximilian Hollis had used lies and coercion, not magic, to manipulate 200 soldiers into fighting. Ellie moved into the heart of the chaos, her power shattering the deception. The soldiers realized they had been betrayed and stopped fighting. I am Duke Maximilian Hollis, he roared. I will not be lectured by a slum-born pretender. You're a man who could only be special because of who your parents were, Ellie countered, her guardian light overwhelming his dark purpose. I am special because of who I chose to become. The duel ended with Maximilian's defeat, his conspiracy broken by the ultimate power of truth. Chapter 21. 5 years later, the Valdez Accord solidified the kingdom's reforms. Ellie and Harrison ruled as equals, their success proving that a kingdom built on justice was the most stable of all. 20 years later, Queen Clara ascended the throne. I promise to serve all the people of this kingdom with wisdom, justice, and love, Clara vowed, embodying the values her mother fought for. The greatest magic is not in changing what is, but in helping people see what could be. If you were hooked by Ellie Vance's fight to protect Princess Clara and loved the rise of the Last Guardian, please hit the like button. Let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite moment when Ellie defied the court? Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next in the Thorne Kingdom. The end. If you were hooked by Ellie's fight to protect Princess Clara and loved the rise of the Last Guardian, please hit the like button. Let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite moment when Ellie defied the court? Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss my next story.